Hi everyone, welcome to the Drum Channel. Thanks again for watching. Very pleased to introduce Mr. Will Hull Brown from the Cat Empire. Thanks for joining us.
Pleasure. Good to be here.
Yes, lovely. Good to have you back in the country.
Yeah,
We've been floating around.
It's nice to be home and get some sun for once.
Yeah,
Should be
absolutely.
home in the country during summer, which is nice.
Awesome, mate. All right, Cat Empire. What are you guys up to at the moment?
Making babies.
Ah, there you go. The times are changing, ladies and gentlemen.
Time's changing. We're still getting on the road though.
You got a tour coming up.
Yeah, we've got a tour coming up in Australia, and a bit of a different one. The idea this time is to do a tour of venues. So we're pretty much doing 5 nights in each of the major cities, and just going venue to venue. So, example in Melbourne, we're doing small and large venues, Bennett's, Lane, Nightcat, Prince, Corner, Palace,
Yep.
and it's the theme is a tour of venues really, and it's nice to be able to be in one town for more than a night, and just jump from venue to venue, and it's good for the band just to change up the show a little bit and play small and big venues as well.
About that, actually, I was going to ask you about your gear and the sort of kit. I mean, in Melbourne, I guess you probably just use your own kit.
Yeah.
Do you have other kits that you use in interstate, or do you fly your own stuff? You prefer to use your own stuff?
The last few times it's been good. We have like a 3-ton truck. We have a driver, and we just chuck all our instruments in that, and that gets driven around.
So it's nice and comfortable every night then.
It's good, yeah. In Australia, you get to use our own gear,
Yep.
which is great because overseas it's all backline,
Yep.
and you get a different thing every gig.
Yeah. I was gonna see how you go with that.
It's a bit like the lottery. Yeah.
With your actual playing with your drums and stuff, do you find that, say, a smaller venue versus a bigger venue, do you think do you feel you play differently? So like, do you I've heard of the term, you bring your big gig chops to, like, say, a big room, as opposed to a smaller room, where you might you can play quieter, or you know what I mean. Like, do you find that with a big venue you tend to just start to have to play louder, or is it the opposite?
You do. I used to think that it shouldn't have to be that way, and just play the way you play, and hopefully it comes across the same. But it doesn't. You do have to adjust a certain amount.
Yeah.
And if you're on a huge stage and it's a huge room, a few thousand people, it's a bit boomier, the room, and I think you can't get away with as many subtleties as you can in a small venue. And so you do have to be a little bit more powerful, I suppose. And in a small venue like Bennett's Lane or like a jazz club or something, you can do a lot. You can play with brushes and do little quiet things. And we tend to get probably a little bit more jammy and jazzy, I suppose, in the small venues.
Cool, yeah, absolutely.
And the audiences seem to like that. They like how our show can vary from gig to gig.
A bit more up close and personal, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. And in terms of your sound, I mean, can you tell me a little bit about the gear you're using at the moment and sort of the sound that you're going for, and whether that differs from, say, Cat Empire to, say, your other project, the Genie, where do you have the same kit sound? Do you just generally go for the same thing, or is it do you change it up a little bit?
It's a little bit different with the Cat Empire. I try and keep the kit sound just as pretty raw and natural as possible.
Yeah.
I've often used this old Ludwig kit that I got at this second-hand drum store in London.
Fantastic.
And that was in 2004, and I had to get it shipped back, and it cost a fortune to get it shipped back.
Yeah.
But it's great. It's like Ringo's kind of kit,
Wow.
the Ludwig 13, 16 and 22 with the Blue Oyster finish, and it sounds great. It's really great. The tones in some of those old drums are so nice.
Yeah, and so your approach to tuning would be like a lower sort of vibe, or do you or dampening, or you just
not too much dampening? Yeah, like somewhere in the middle.
Yeah,
not a dead, but not too open and boomy.
Yeah,
just
yeah.
like nice and round kind of tones, and then but with the Genie, it's maybe a little bit deader, a bit more sort of 70s kind of dead vibe.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about Genie. Can you tell us a little bit about the band?
Yeah, sure. The Genie is it's Ollie McGill on keys and Ryan Munro on bass.
Yep.
And they're both from the Cat Empire as well.
So the rhythm section kind of thing.
Yeah, that's right. So we've been playing together for 11, 12 years, so it's really good to play with those guys. And it's just we've got a lot more freedom in this band, I suppose. Ollie just brings all his toys and gadgets and stuff, and half the gig's usually a jam, and the other half's sort of worked out But yeah, it kind of mixes between sort of 70s kind of fusion and kind of dance, techno-y, electro kind of stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, and we've finally got our asses into gear and got an album happening.
Cool.
And it's being released, this month, April. And we'll see if we can sell more than 10 CDs.
I reckon you will. And the writing process for the Genie, some of the stuff that I heard even on YouTube, I was like, struggling to keep up. Like, do you a collective sort of thing? Do you play write your own sort of parts for it, or to say, Ollie, come in and say, okay, this is what I'm doing at the moment, and you.
Ollie has probably done most of the writing.
Stuff,
Like he's at home, he may have made it on a program and he's got all the instruments going. But either that or he just comes up with melodies and forms. Riz has written a couple of tunes as well.
Yep.
But otherwise we've had jams in the past and then recorded them and then gone, oh, what's that bit in the jam? Let's turn that into a piece.
Yep. Gotcha. And in terms of your influences or your people, what are you listening to at the moment, or what have you listened to in the past that's kind of taken you down the style of drumming that you've got? Anything that comes to mind?
Well, starting with the past, I suppose, which is probably the most important. The reason I actually got into music and drumming in the first place. I've got an older brother and sister, and when you're growing up, I always looked up to them and what they were listening to. So
yeah, right.
It was all those usual suspects in the early '90s, like the Seattle grunge, the Soundgarden,
cool,
and Smashing Pumpkins, Pearl Jam, Chili Peppers, Metallica, and Pink Floyd. And, going back to Led Zeppelin and things like that, some Beatles, and the Police. As you know, all the drumming on all those bands is amazing.
Yep.
And then over the years, and through mixing with the guys from the Cat Empire, they've exposed me to a lot of other music, some funk and some Latin and stuff, like James Brown and Manu Chao and different other world musicians. And it's wonderful just to be able to watch another band play and be influenced by not only the drummer, but just the different music and the different approaches and just things like people, not everyone counts numbers
in the same way. Yeah.
In the same way, we played recently with this Ethiopian musician, and he had to teach us a song because we played with him, and we were like, okay, where does this bit happen? Is it after 2 bars or is it after beat 4? And he was just like, he couldn't comprehend what we were talking about. He's like, what are you talking about? And he'd just sing something to us, and it'd be this theme, and he'd say, just come in after that. So they don't think in numbers at all.
It happened to be 9/8 or something.
It was a weird thing, but
right.
These days listening to what have I been listening to? That's a really good question. Some Creedence, Clearwater Revival. Some Neil Young.
Cool. See, if you want to be in the Cat Empire, you've got to check this stuff out.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
And do you, in terms of your practice and growing up and learning and stuff, is there some certain techniques you've fallen back on? You said you mentioned you've listened to some Latin stuff and what sort of stuff are you're working on if you get time amongst babies and tours and things? What sort of stuff are you working on to kind of keep on top of your game? On the road and stuff.
On the road. That's a good question. Sometimes I can practice, doing rudiments and things at home, but you're not really pushed until you get on stage and play. And that's what really wrecks me, is doing a 2-hour show or something and really get into it. So that's what I'm trying to do at the moment, is actually when I practice at home, get a bit more into just going hard a little bit and sweating out. And
a real life sort of situation.
That's right. And playing a fast rock groove or something, or a funk thing, and just play it for a long time and really work on the endurance. And
it's a really interesting point. Really interesting point.
Yeah, I love doing warm-ups rudiments and things, and I do that before shows, especially if it's cold here in Germany or something, and it's winter, and your wrists just don't move, so you've got to. Yeah. And I like just doing really gentle, constant things, just like that with each hand. Doesn't have to be fast or anything, but just doing it for a while.
Yeah, and sustained sort of stuff.
Yeah, and eventually your hands just get warm and things like that.
That's great.
Yeah.
And you mentioned rudiments before. Are you you working on? You working on anything at the moment in terms of that?
Yeah, I found this great book. I don't know how why I didn't see it earlier, but it's by this guy called Alan.
Yes.
Alan
Dawson.
Well, yes, Alan Dawson is the original drummer who the book is about.
Okay.
And it's the drummer's complete vocabulary. It's funny, I stumbled on the word vocabulary.
That's not important. We're talking about rudiments. They should have put rudiments in the title.
Yeah, that's right. It's a great book. It's it goes through like 80 odd rudiments.
Yep.
Like American ones, Swiss ones, and then new innovations. And
I was going to say hybrids and things.
yeah, all that kind of stuff. And then Alan Dawson compiled, this is back in the 60s when he was teaching, he compiled this thing called the Rudimental Ritual.
Yeah.
And it combines all of those rudiments and he plays them as a piece over like a samba foot pattern.
Gotcha.
And each rudiment just flows into the next and it goes for about 20, 25 minutes, depending on how fast you do it.
Right.
And it's a real workout. And
Chop builder.
yeah, mega chop builder.
And so you can change your foot patterns and
Yeah,
line all the
absolutely.
drums and all that sort of stuff.
And he says do the whole thing with brushes as well. So that's something I want to work on as well.
Wow.
Doing it with brushes. But
Well, fantastic. Well, look, thanks very much for taking the time to chill out and
pleasure.
hang out with me and our viewers. Will
worries.
Brown, ladies and gentlemen. See you again soon, mate.
Thank you for your
Cheers.
time. Cheers.